Good evening, everyone. It's my honor and pleasure to call the meeting of the El Centro City Council to order this evening. At this time, we will ask for a roll call by the city clerk.
Councilmember Gardenis.
Present.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Silva.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
And Mayor Villegas Walker.
I'm here. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. Pledge of Allegiance to be given by Councilmember Jackson.
Please join me in saluting our flag and our country. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening with our hearts open in sympathy and compassion and empathy for those who are suffering from such severe weather throughout the eastern seaboard. We pray your hand of mercy and comfort upon them. We also ask, Lord, that you help us every day to be reminded of living a spirit of gratitude, how much we have to be grateful for in this great nation, how much we have to be grateful for here in the city of El Centro. I thank you, Lord, that we are here tonight to do the business of our community. I'm thankful for the other members of the council, thankful for the public, for our great employees. Be us ever mindful of the many blessings that we have to lend a hand to others at all times. And these things we pray in thy precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, at this time, we are going to ask our city attorney to report out on closed session. The city council met between 11:30 and approximately 1:30 today in closed session. Ms. Betsy.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we are reporting out of closed session that the city has authorized this participation in the Imperial Valley Coalition for Fair Sharing of Water amicus brief in the Michael Abadi versus Imperial Irrigation District litigation. They've authorized a payment of $2,500 for that, and we would like to have you add to the agenda a resolution which confirms that support and amicus participation.
Very good. Can we do that at this time, Diane?
Sure, yes.
Okay, I would add to add the item. Could I have a motion to add, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jackson, second by Garcia. Please vote.
Is that the right one?
Yes, this is a motion to add, please.
This is the motion to add. That's a passed 5-0. And then, Betsy, the exact motion then that has been added, the action item is for us to join in the amicus brief as well as to contribute the amount of $2,500 towards this very important litigation. Okay?
We're finding the agenda number for you.
1880.
This will be agenda number 18A.
Resolution number 1880.
18, okay. Very good. And I'm going to read the heading of the resolution into the record. A resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro supporting and joining the amicus brief to be filed by the Imperial Valley Coalition for Fair Sharing of Water in the Abadi versus Imperial Irrigation District litigation. So again, this is both the resolution and the $2,500 contribution. Can we ballot on that at this time?
No, we will have to do a voice
Voice
ballot.
vote, okay.
Do you need a motion first?
Yes, I need a motion and a second.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a motion by Jackson, second by Garcia.
Gardenis.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Very good. That's passed unanimously. Thank you again, Mr. Landgruber. Very much appreciate your leadership on this issue and the fine people that you've brought together to lead the charge on this. It's, as we said at our meeting 2 weeks ago, this is vital to the future of the valley. Might as well, without the water, pack up and move somewhere else. So again, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on now to presentations. The first proclamation that we will be issuing tonight is in honor of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And who will be accepting this?
Monica.
Monica? Monica, it's wonderful to see you. And Mr. Jimenez, will you be?
Leadership Council for American Cancer Society, and Lisa Julia Cruz, American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
Very good, thank you. It's great to see all of you. I will go ahead and read the proclamation, and then if you have anything else to add, and then we will all come down there and take a quick picture. Okay. So, City of El Centro Proclamation, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, September 2018. Whereas cancer is a group of diseases characterized by uncontrolled growth and spread of abnormal cells, which, if not controlled, can cause premature death. And whereas the American Cancer Society is a voluntary community-based coalition of local citizens dedicated to eliminating cancer as a major health problem through financial support and education awareness. And whereas, in addition to leading and funding childhood cancer research, the American Cancer Society supports the families of children who have cancer with education, support services, and advocacy. And whereas the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, the Society's nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy affiliate, advocates for childhood cancer through public policy such as research funding for childhood cancer and new legislation to address quality of life for childhood cancer patients and survivors. And whereas the El Centro City Council encourages people to show support to children living with cancer and honor children that have lost their lives to the dreaded disease of cancer. Now therefore, I, Cheryl Villegas Walker, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim September 2018 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of El Centro.
Thank you, Madam Member, Council members. On behalf of the American Cancer Society Leadership Council, I'm here to give some remarks. Essentially, cancer is the second leading cause of death in children and the leading related cause of death for children ages 1 through 19. Although there's been substantial progress to battle some types of pediatric cancer, boosting survival for those cancers, however, there are still types of childhood cancers that remain deadly. While the rising numbers of childhood cancer survivors underscore our progress, there is a need to address our ongoing health concerns and quality of life. The American Cancer Society is deeply committed to improve the outcome for childhood cancers. As of August 1st, 2018, we are supporting 49 active multi-year research grants for a total of $25,399,500 specific to childhood cancer. And you can learn more about the activities that we engage in by visiting our website at cancer.org. Shameless plug. Madam Mayor, you did mention our American Cancer Society, our Cancer Action Network, which supports policies that advance the childhood cancer research agenda that we have, and we continuously seek to improve children's access to quality cancer care. So to know more about the cancer care for children, please visit our website specific to our Action Network, which is acscan.org/childhood cancer. The Childhood Cancer Survivorship, Treatment, Access, and Research Act, also known as the STAR Act, which was signed into law by the President on June 5th, 2018, will help advance pediatric cancer research, increase transparency and expertise for pediatric cancer research at the National Institute of Health, and expand research into long-term side effects of childhood cancer and its treatments. The American Cancer Society, along with volunteers in our community, including childhood cancer patients, survivors, and their families, have worked tirelessly to advance this important piece of legislation. So we are here to hope that that STAR Act is, in the future, continuously fully funded. And we are here to say thank you for raising awareness by declaring the month of September for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So thank you so much.
Thank you all for what you do and the support and volunteerism that you provide to our community. Now that we are all parents up here, I think that gives us an even greater appreciation for what it would mean to have a child suffering from this dreaded illness. Any additional comments, Mr. Silva? Mr. Garcia?
I think, thank you so much for what you're doing. And I did not realize, Tomas, in your remarks that cancer is the second leading cause of death for children. That's just amazing. And, you know, we keep hoping that one of these days, you know, we find a cure for cancer that provides tragedy for families across all of us, including myself sometime back. And so anything that we can do to recognize the efforts that you put forward and to value the work that you do and to be able to help out in any way, thank you so much for what you do.
I want to thank all of you so much for the work that you do. We all see the tragic stories of these children that are afflicted with this horrible, horrible illness. And it really touches all of us. But on a personal note, my youngest brother was diagnosed with childhood leukemia when he was 6 years old. And things were very grim for our family at that time. And thankfully, with the help of his doctors and the treatment, it went into remission. And now I have to worry about him getting out of his room, playing video games, and actually getting a job and going to college. But that's another story. But the fact that we have that opportunity and seeing how it affected our family and how we rallied and how the resources really were not present at that time. I mean, we're talking about, 20 years ago. And to see that there's so much attention being given now, and rightfully so, because, I mean, as a father of 3, I would be remiss if anything like that happened to my child. And seeing my brother and seeing him healthy, and he's a big boy now working security, but back then he was skin and bone, and it was a tragedy. But thank God for the work, for the advocacy, for all the doctors out there that are working tirelessly to try to help all of these children. And it has a deep impact on all of us. Thank you so much for all of your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, I think unfortunately, cancer is the one thing that every single one of us has had to deal with, whether it be a friend or a relative or business acquaintance or anything like that. And it's so important, the work that you guys do, whether it be for children or for adults. It's, the Relay for Life is always a great event. I think most of us all attend that every year. And, just to get that awareness, and this is another opportunity to really get that awareness out there, that it's not just adults, but, children. I wasn't aware that it's the second leading cause either. So, those kind of things educate us and educate the community. And so anytime we can do things like this to help your cause and bring awareness to it, I think it's a great opportunity for us to do so. So thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, and I just first of all want to thank our mayor and our city council and staff for proclaiming this as clearing it for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So I do thank our staff for making that happen, and then thank all of you for your support. You got quite a dream team right there, so I know that you guys can make some things happen. So thank you for partnering or allowing us to partner with you when it comes to dealing with such a tragic illness.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Photo time. Monica, did you want to say anything?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for this, and of course, I always have to ask. We are always in need of funding, so if there's any way you guys can support us,
There is. I'm coming to talk to you right now.
so let me know. We'll apply. We are doing community transportation grants, and we're working on a lot of projects. So if you want to find out more, I'm the person to talk to. But we're always also looking for volunteers. So thank you.
Not everybody.
You only taking the pictures or what? You don't like taking pictures?
Okay, we have one other public proclamation, and this is Voter Registration Week, which is going to take place September 23rd through 29th. We do have the Registrar of Voters here with us tonight, Debbie Porter, right? Very good. So you'll be accepting this on behalf of the County Election Department, is that correct? And I've also asked Diane Caldwell, the council will recall that the ad hoc committee put together by the county to kind of stimulate interest in getting registered in elections. I've asked Diane to provide the council with an update on activities that have been going on. So let's do the proclamation and then we'll do the update from Diane if we can. So this is Voter Registration Week, September 23 through 29, 2018. Whereas, as of August 28, 2018, Imperial County has 68,122 registered voters, and of those, 3,010 are newly registered voters that were acquired since January 1, 2018. And whereas the voter registration process in California is easier and more convenient than ever, with applications available online for eligible voters through in-person registration at the Imperial County Elections Office, and whereas the need for public information and education regarding voter registration is critical for eligible voters to take part in the electoral process, and whereas during the week of September 23 through 29, the Imperial County Registrar of Voters will conduct various community outreach events and activities to promote the importance of engaging in the elections process. Now therefore, I, Cheryl Villegas Walker, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim September 23 through 29, 2018 as Voter Registration Week in the City of El Centro. The El Centro City Council encourages all eligible citizens to register to vote and take part in activities designed to promote greater participation in the upcoming November general election. It just seems a little... This is wonderful news. This is wonderful news.
Just for the election.
Well,
So, Madam Mayor and council members, thank you for recognizing National Voter Registration. It's actually National Voter Registration Day, and we have extended it
Well, a whole
for the
week?
whole week.
Yeah.
Yes. So, beginning on Monday, we will be going to various schools throughout the county. We will be at IVC, Central Union High School, Calexico High School, Imperial High School, and Brawley Union High School to speak on the importance of registering and voting. And to register to vote or pre-register to vote, you must be U.S. citizen, 18 years or older, or if you're pre-registering, and we do this now, 16 or 17 years of age. Of course, you can't vote until you turn 18, but you can pre-register. And then again, you know, it's in the proclamation there that to make registering easier to vote and all the conveniences that you have. Another place that you can also register to vote, in case anyone hasn't been there lately, is the DMV. The DMV now registers people to vote also. For this election, the last day to register to vote is October 22nd. During the month of October, we are going to be out. We're using the mobile voting unit again. We're going to be at various locations around the county. We're looking at, well, it was talked about last week, trying to get in the parking lot of the Burger King that closed, right across from Starbucks. So we're trying to get that for El Centro, the last I heard. To register, let's see, to another, let me think here. The last day to register to vote, I said that is October the 22nd, and I would just like to say don't forget to vote in the November 6th election. Sorry.
You can say that, and I'll put an exclamation point at the end of that. So,
Okay, that's great.
Ms. Caldwell, can you bring us up to date on comments that you
You
have?
want me to come out there?
Please.
elaborate if needed.
Okay.
We have met 4 times. The Elections Ad Hoc
Wow.
Committee has met 3 times. The fourth time.
Seemed like 4.
Yeah, it seemed like 4. Actually, I think we've been doing really good things. We have, the county has sent out a flyer that's been in everybody's tax bills, I'm sure, that you've all received, which indicates the last day to register and where to deposit your vote by mail ballots, which I think they're really trying to encourage everybody to get those vote by mail ballots in at least 10 days before the election so that
Yes.
the registrar's voters office can review them and make sure they're ready to go.
What's the date for the release then of the vote by mail ballots if we want them back 10 days ahead of time?
The first day that we can mail ballots out is October the 8th, which is a federal holiday. So there is no mail that day, so
Okay.
it's October the 9th.
Okay.
Another item that the county elections department is doing is they've upgraded their website, which makes it a lot easier for the citizens to view things and to find information.
That'll be live next week.
They've also have moved their county precinct that used to be located in the elections department. They moved it down the hall to C&D to make it more convenient for residents to come in there and vote. And then they're not really disturbing election day activities in Debbie's office.
Right. We will also have the mobile unit parked in front of our building on Election Day, so people they don't have to come inside the building. They can vote out in the mobile unit or drop their ballot off outside without ever having to come into the building.
Okay, and another good item is they've increased the election workers stipend. They've raised it to $100. So
Okay.
that should really encourage individuals to volunteer for Election Day.
Right.
They will be speaking to the high school and IBC students to possibly recruit for possible election workers, which will help them election night to get the ballots out and
Get them counted.
counted. As Debbie's mentioned, the mobile election unit schedule is posted on the county website. Is that up
I
yet?
don't think it's quite, well, the website's not live yet, and I don't think that's the schedules.
But that's one of the items will be
Yes,
up
it
and
will be
running.
out there next week.
And we will also post it on the City of El Centro's website, so if any of our residents need to see it, it'll be there as well. We will have vote-by-mail ballot boxes at City Hall, starting October 22nd through the 25th, and again, October 29th through November 1st, from 9 to 4 p.m. They'll be located in our front lobby there at City Hall.
Okay.
And again, that will be posted on our website as well as probably the county's. CoLab, which I'm not sure if it was sponsored also by the county, but CoLab did have a training for all the candidates for November.
It's just CoLab. We just participated.
Okay. And the city, which really isn't part of the ad hoc, but something we did on our behalf is that we did put information in the community newsletter indicating when the election is and when vote-by-mail ballots are due back. And any information that the county has up, we are also trying to put it on our side as well. So it's out there.
Okay, I have one thing. Diane struck this out here, but it's called a bingo board. And so on election night, for, for all of you that watch or call and want to know what precincts are in and what's still out, we're going to have it online. There will be a listing of all of our precincts. And as the precincts come in, that board will turn from red to each precinct will turn green when it comes in. So any candidate will be able to see what precincts are still outstanding. And we'll put up a little legend so you know what those 6 numbers mean. They do all mean something. So you'll be able to tell what cities are still outstanding.
Next meeting is December the 5th, I believe,
Yeah.
after the election.
Okay, so before I turn it over to my colleagues, there was one thing that I had mentioned to Diane that I'm hoping that it can be addressed somehow, and that is that people who fully believe that they're registered to vote and it turns out that maybe their signature is wrong, or they registered differently with your office, and those votes are not counted. But they're not notified of that in time to correct it. And I know that there's some jurisdictions like Orange County that do that. And where this hit home again is, you know, filing your, whatever the signatures to get qualified to serve. I had 4 people that were disqualified, who I know they think that they are properly registered to vote, and yet if they cast a ballot, their vote will not count.
Cast a vote by mail ballot. Okay, so we've spoke about this before. Diane asked me about it a couple of weeks ago at one of our meetings, and I went back to our office after that because I told Diane at that time, no, and I was thinking about it as I walked back down the hall, and I went back and I got one of my staff and we discussed it and we looked for a report that we could do. So we were going to try using this election to see if we could stay ahead of the game on that signature miscompares. But our governor signed into law as of Monday, and it is an immediate law, it takes place immediately, so it is for this election, a bill that says that we will notify any voter whose signature does not compare.
Okay, fantastic. I also heard that they were going to waive the postage fee for mail-in ballots.
That starts in 2019.
2019,
Not
which
this
I think,
time.
again, is another improvement. So, you know, you always kind of guess, well, I know it's not 47 cents or 49 cents, it might be 61 cents, but now it's like, not going to cost anything. So, any comments here?
Thank you, both of you, for what you do. And I'd like to ask you a question, Ms. Porter, and I know that sometimes, you know, it's counting ballots has to be just an incredible job, and I think many of us, as we're anxiously waiting for the results, we keep, you know, waiting, and sometimes I understand that there may be delays, but we may not able to understand why there's delays or what we consider to be delays or long gaps between one report and the second one. And I think I saw something on the paper where the County Board of Supervisors was going to have some kind of initiative or a work group to try to make that a little better. Am I mistaken on that, or
No,
what can we expect for this year?
We have had ad hoc meetings, we've had 3 of them. So we did get a lot of good feedback. We are putting a whole bunch of it into play. We had already started it, but then when the ad hoc committee came into play, now it became, yes, you will do it, and yes, we will find the funding for it, yay. So we do have different things. For one thing, as all of you being a candidate up here, there are no election night final reports. There are no next day final reports, or the next day, or the next day. We are still counting ballots, valid ballots. These are ballots that can be turned in. Maybe it's missing a signature up to 8 days after the election. So there could be no final report for those ballots until the 9th day is when you would see it. Although, you know, you go to the polls and you vote, or you vote by mail, and you get the results at the end and you're either elected or you're not, right? But it's all the stuff in between that through the years has changed. We are more than 52% a vote by mail county. A lot of counties are way up into the 90%. We're moving on up. We started out, when I first started in elections, we had less than 300 vote by mail voters, but then you had to have a reason to be a vote by mail voter, whereas now anyone can be a vote by mail voter. So it has increased, and it is increasing every election. So more vote by mail ballots, that's a manual process that we do in the office. That's why we're saying that if you are a vote by mail voter, please, when you get that ballot, vote it, get it back to us. Although you can turn your ballot in on election day, you can bring it into our office on election day, you can mail it in with a postmark of election day. it's better if you vote it and get it into us so we can get that ballot counted. We can start actually tallying ballots at 10 days prior to the election. We cannot release any reports until election night at 8 o'clock. And that's another thing. You ask about why it takes so long between reports. We can only go as fast as our poll workers return their supplies to us. We have Calexico, we have Brawley. They all those precincts gather in one point and they come in together. And so we wait. So Brawley and Calexico, you know, it's a little rivalry between the two to see who will get in first. Calexico's has been beating them for the past couple of elections.
Do you have any comments?
Thank you very much for your work. You know, as a candidate and as all of us have been candidates at some time, it really is a stressful situation. But to know that we have such fine people working tirelessly through the night, I know it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
And I know that you guys work through the night sometimes to try to get those reports out. And to now that we have this committee, it just shows your commitment to the democratic process, and I thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, I just look forward to see how, you know, these new augmentations that you guys are implementing, you know, change how everything comes about this year. I think there is always that frustration. It's probably on both sides, as a candidate and as you know, working in the county and trying to get things out, because I know you guys try to get things out as quickly as possible. And you, Debbie, are always fielding calls from probably most of us saying, hey, when's the next count coming out and everything. So I think you probably, as much as us, wants this to move faster and be more productive and get those numbers out. So as well as the citizens, I think, you know, they're anxious to see, you know, what's going to happen to whether it's the city government, county government, or school boards and such. So I look forward to seeing how it works out and commend you guys for the time and effort you guys have put in so far.
Thank you.
And just real quick, I just want to pass on appreciation for Josie, Christy, and Jamie, who work down there in that office. But I do have 3 requests that maybe you can take back to the ad hoc committee. One is I think we're one of the very few counties that do not provide the 460s on PDF. And I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but I know when people want to look at 460s, they have to come in and either ask a copy to be made, pay for a copy, or take a picture of it with their phone. I believe other counties do allow to have the 460s on their website and download it on a PDF. I don't know. The second thing would be just thanking our voters for voting. You know, I know that some of the other counties actually send out a communication to tell our voters, thank you for coming out and vote. So I think that would be a nice gesture. And I know that updates are tough, but it would be nice if our county PIO took a more proactive approach and just kind of letting the public know, you know, whether it's missing precincts or, you know, just some general information, so folks are more active and appreciative of the process or the challenges. So I would really like to see a more active role from the PIO, county PIO, in giving just regular updates regarding the election office. So, but can I ask you to respond to the 460 question as far as making those 460s available on a PDF form as opposed to coming in and taking a picture and making a copy?
I can respond right now.
Cannot?
I can.
Oh, okay.
Well, why don't we do just, so for those of you that don't know or have never filled one out, a 460 is a campaign disclosure form where you list everybody that is giving you
Yes.
money
Thank you, Mayor.
and how you've spent the money and who you owe money to and all of those
So
kinds of
when you
things.
are a candidate, you do have lots of campaign forms to fill out. We just received, all the counties have received money from the state. Our allotment was $435,000, I think. One of the things that are on our list is to buy e-file. So you, as a candidate, would then be filing online. You would have your own special number where you could go in and your treasurer's signature and everything would be there. But then when it went into the to the public queue, then your treasurer signature would be redacted, but all your other stuff would show. So the public would be able to see it. And so you would be able to file online at that time also.
So that's a 1920 maybe enhancement or?
Hopefully by the end of this 2019, not this year.
Oh,
2019,
Okay,
yes.
Okay,
thank you.
great. All right, let's take a picture. And Diane, Ms. Caldwell, thank you so much for your service and report.
In the middle.
Here you go, something else for you to desk.
Thank you.
Okay, this is going to be fantastic. Next is our Parks and Recreation and Library Summer recap. So let's take a peek at all of the fantastic stuff we did this summer. I know. Yeah?
Hello, Honorable Council. It's great with great pleasure that I report to you on the summer activities. Before I begin, I just want to thank staff. They're not here, but none of this is possible with the one-man team. This is a huge effort, huge undertaking, not only by our supervisors, but also our various recreation leaders that we hire every summer to come out and, do a summer gig out here with us and bear with us on all of our craziness that is the hiring process, the dealing with the children, and everything else that comes along with it. So I wanted to start with this presentation with our missions. As Community Services Director, we represent not only the Parks and Recreation portion, but also the public library and also economic development, but this is just for the library and the community center. So for Parks and Recreation, our mission is to provide safe and quality indoor and outdoor recreation opportunities to the citizens of the city of El Centro. The Parks and Recreation Division provides constructive leisure, educational classes, landscape management, and development services within the city, providing varied, safe, attractive, and modern places for public recreation. For a library, it's to provide quality materials and programs to meet the educational, informational, cultural, and recreational needs of our diverse community. The library is also committed to lifelong learning using a broad and relevant selection of print media, along with access to information through current technology. And also, the staff is dedicated to providing information and assistance in friendly and welcoming environment. So we'll start out with first our community center activities. So we have the smaller camps, which are stepping stones, a quarter pint, half pint camp, mini camp. And so the ages here vary from 0 to 6 years old. And you'll see through some of the pictures that some of them are parent and child involvement. And then some of them, the children that are potty trained, actually come in throughout the day by themselves and work with our rec leaders. So these are some of the pictures of our smallest members, each of them doing different activities. They vary from very simple things like getting items through beans and rice to color matching. So for this program, we had about 70 to 80 children participated per week. So we also had our camps at the MLK Pavilion and Conrad Harrison Youth Center. So this is by far our largest group. They range from 7 to 12 years of age, and they do a plethora of activities, exercise, crafts, music, and they even do an end of summer talent show. If you've never attended, it's pretty fun. The kids do a lot of wild things, and we have a really talented community. So the camp participants for this range from 130 to 140 participants per day. So these are some of the activities you can see the kids do, from tug of war to they do a lot of dancing. out there as well, and then a lot of crafts. So we also have, in addition to the summer camps, we also have a couple of leagues that participate throughout the summer. We have the youth league, we also have an adult basketball league, we have a cheer camp, and we also have a volleyball camp. So there's you can see from the Nothing But Net Youth Basketball League, we have about 1,000 players per week. So yeah, so it's our ACs are working really hard during that time period. If you ever see our requisitions, you'll see a lot of maintenance of ACs because it's just really unbearable. So these are just some images of some of the camps. You can see the adult basketball league, the kids, their cheer camp, and then some of our volleyball girls. We also have a soccer camp. The soccer camp was offered to children from 3 to 11 years of age. They played Friday afternoons for 6 weeks, and it's mostly focuses on the fundamentals. In total, 162 children participated for the summer. We also have a special population camp. They have different needs, and so we offer a special population camp specifically for them, and staff. Pat has worked really closely with staff in training them and making sure they know how to work with children of special population. And we're also teaming up with the Autism Support of Imperial County. They bring in the children. So I'd like to also go into the aquatics. So this year was a change. We went to Imperial Valley College, and I want to thank Imperial Valley College. They were very welcoming. I think our staff really enjoyed being out there. The numbers also increased from what I've heard from staff from the previous year because of the expanded hours that could be accommodated by IVC. So these are just some of the figures. Swim lesson participants, 779. Public swim attendees, 1,857. We also had accommodated our special populations through Learn to Swim activities, and I'll go through some of the pictures. So these are, you can see these are some of the various swim lessons from the children. Just a wild fun day right there in the middle. And then we also had a dive-in movie night where we invited the public, and we saw, I believe, Surf's Up that night. It was a pretty fun night and great to be out there. It's really beautiful with the ags on the side. It's really, really a nice night. So this was our Autism Learn to Swim population. I think the lifeguards, from what I've heard, really, really enjoyed doing this activity. They learned teaching other children how to swim as well. So for a national youth program using mini bikes, Pat is super ardent working on this initiative. I'm not sure if you're all familiar, so I'll go over a little bit of the program's objective. It's to help underserved youth in our community by encouraging students to stay in school, promote environmental awareness, foster community involvement, develop writing skills, and responsible citizenship. So for this one, we use a Honda mini bike to teach the children, and it's also a very vocational program. So for this summer, they were taught how to work with carburetors, and they do a number of activities. One of the pictures, you can see them, they're working on the bike itself, and then they're also doing, I believe, robotics with the smaller equipment. I believe one of the schools let us borrow them for the summer, so they could learn a little about robotics. So we also have YELS, the Youth Attaining Leadership Skills. These are volunteers who work with us. Their highlight throughout the summer is a cooking competition. And this year they teamed up with the staff. I believe you were there.
I was a judge.
So it was Disney themed, and I've heard everybody had a great time and was very, very well fed by the end of the meal. So we also had a public library summer reading program. So the purpose of this program is to encourage students to continue reading during the summer break. We had a total of 276 children participate. So for every book that was read, they were given a library dollar, and at the end of the summer, they were able to cash in. They had a little store where they were able to buy candies, books, and other goodies. So more than 2,800 books were recorded as read, and from Mr. Banks, the program was very successful. So here are some of the activities. One of our officers participated as well in informing the students about working with, I believe, is it Tico?
Max.
That one's Max.
Max, sorry, okay. And then at the end, we had a celebration with the dancers and the children.
Oh, wow.
Had a really good time. I also want to point out that this Thursday, we're going to be having an event, and we encourage you all to attend. I'll be there myself. I'm looking forward to it. From what I've heard is we're going to have a ton of crafts left over from the summer reading program, and we're going to just have different stations for the kids to enjoy.
Perfect.
So Adult Center, we had numerous activities throughout the months. We had some from fire department. We also had a 4th of July party, and then in August, IID provided a presentation. We had 617 total program participants throughout the summer. So they also traveled to Julian, and so some of these pictures are from that. They also knit, so these are just some of the things they do while they're hanging out at the Adult Center. It's also a cool center, so many of the individuals who may not have air conditioning in their home where it breaks down, they can hang out at the Adult Center and do some activities while out there. So we're also proud that Meadows Union Elementary School District has partnered up with the city now for various years. They offer throughout the summer breakfast, lunch, and a snack. And they're offering this at various facilities throughout the city. So we have it at the Public Library, the Community Center, and Dr. Martin Luther King Pavilion. So 4,875 breakfasts, 5,845 lunches, 1,550 snacks. And I just want to do a special thank you to the cafeteria manager, Ted Moreno, who cooks a great meal from everybody here, that the food's really, really good.
And you
So-
can't go wrong with quesadillas and
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Yeah.
So I just wanted to put an example, like what do they get? And it's really good stuff. I mean, they have Uncrustables. So we also had some construction going on. These are just some pictures.
Little construction.
Yeah, this
Yeah. Wow.
you can see how deep they are by the ratio of worker to pool. And I believe in this, they might be doing some dewatering. I don't know, Abraham, correct me. And then we also had the construction of Plank Park going on, which we have phase 1 ribbon cutting this Saturday as well. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. I may not be an expert in all the programs. As you remember, my contract was approved June 17, so I've only have a short time on the job.
All right.
Madam Mayor, if I can go first.
Yes, please.
Adriana, first and foremost, I have to say thank you very much for all of your work. All 3 of my children were in the summer camps.
Hope we
and
didn't have any claims or anything.
they came home with all sorts of arts and crafts and stories about their teachers, and they just couldn't wait to get back there every single day.
Oh, that's great to
awesome.
hear.
That right there is a testament to the ability of the people that we have running those programs, because they were entertained and looking forward to the next day. They woke up early. They were fed and dressed, and they wanted to go. It's time to go to camp. Dad,
So
get
cool.
up, get up. I got to court early that time because they wanted to go, and they loved
good
it
news,
so much. And they made sure after their performance at the end of the year that we were going to sign them up next year.
There you
So
go.
that right there is a testament to all of the hard work for all of our volunteers, all of the people running the program. It's just a wonderful thing. And I picked them up, and every time I picked them up, they had all sorts of new stuff that they worked on. And they were so happy and so proud, and they made so many good friends.
Great to hear.
So I had 2 boys at MOK, and then I had my younger boy at the community center. And it's just, the quality was through and through.
Well, definitely
Very,
give that
very
back to staff.
impressive. Very impressive. And they're looking forward to next year.
Fantastic.
They have
So,
priority. All Central residents have priority, so.
Perfect. Mr. Silva?
Thank you, Adriana. And my only thought is, for anyone to dare say that there's nothing to do for our children in El Centro over the summertime, we have to say you're crazy, because there's plenty of things to do.
We think we just are improving at marketing ourselves as well. The commission also warned me that if I market too much, then we don't have enough space for everybody. So
Right.
it's a slippery slope,
Yeah.
and it's a
Thank you.
fine road we have to walk.
And please thank your staff as well.
No, I definitely will.
Yeah, I think we have great staff, and every time I've been involved with any of the youth projects especially, it's just great to see such energy, and they really enjoy their jobs, and you can see how that translates to, as Mr. Garcia said, his kids being happy and wanting to be back there the next day. So the pictures of the pool are great. I think we're all anxious to see that, and and then we'll all be out there on Saturday for the opening of Plank Park, so look forward to it.
Yeah, and just real quick, I want to just thank you guys and your leadership and just rallying up all the volunteers. I know there's quite a bit of volunteers that participate in that process, so the fact that they volunteer is also a testament to your leadership. Ms. Nava, you are tasked with finding additional spaces, because I know it's first come, first serve, and we do get a lot of calls, unfortunately, of kids that weren't able to participate because there wasn't enough spaces. So again, that is a bittersweet type of situation, but we're looking forward to your leadership and seeing how we can find more spaces and resources. So no pressure there.
Well, thank you all so much for this time, and I will continue to be providing updates. We've rolled out our fall program, so at the end of fall, we'll do the same.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Job well
Thank
done.
you.
All right, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. We are going to move, we're going to pull item number 8 from the consent agenda. I guess we needed to make one modification to the memorandum of understanding with IVC. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to approve items 4 through 7, please. I have a motion by Garcia, second by Cardenas, and that passes 5-0. Next, with regard to item number 8, we will have Mr. Silva abstain, as the MOU has to do with his employer. So we have a motion by Jackson. We have a second by Cardenas. We have an abstention. And what should I do for,
Can you?
want me to hit abstain?
Yes, please.
Okay, that item passes 3 with 2 abstentions. Very good. We're going to move on now to item number 9, which is the reconsideration of the increase in taxi cab rates. I do want to note that we do have representatives from Imperial County Transportation Commission. Very grateful for both of you to be here this evening, and they'll be sharing a little bit later on some of the options with regard to public transportation. So the reason for the reconsideration is after the council took action on this item, it was brought to our attention that perhaps there was some misunderstanding, at least with regard to Yellow Cab and their participation as part of what got this in front of the council to begin with. So I think that it's very important for us to clear the air with regard to that issue. It's also brought to our attention that maybe there was a misunderstanding as to who could or could not participate in the public comment portion while this item was under discussion. It's my understanding that 2 people left, thinking that they were not going to have an opportunity to address the council. So we want to make sure that all of this is taken into consideration. There's a few people that did express some concerns with regard to the trip charge increase. Again, another reason for reconsideration. And then there was a question that came up, Ms. Martin, we'll look to the city attorney with regard to this. The council takes action we took action to increase it to $6, but are cab companies necessarily mandated to charge $6, or they cannot charge in excess of $6?
It's the latter. It is, you cannot charge in excess of the maximum adopted.
Okay, so if a cab company decides they wanted to continue to charge $5.50, or I think what was shared with us before is at most just $5, they could continue to do so.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, so Ms. Salcido, do you have a quick presentation? And I'll tell you, if you want to speak on this item, you need to fill out a slip and let us know. Right now, I just have Mr. Baza and Mr. Aguirre from ICTCU filled out a slip. So if you want to speak, I'll need a card from you.
Well, your summary was pretty much what I was going to say, but basically at the last meeting, we approved rates for the trip from $5.50 to $6. The wait time was increased from $12 to $20. And one of the things subsequent to the last public hearing, the request was for another hearing to reconsider the rates that were approved because those results did not meet the expectations of the taxi cab companies. In addition, Finance met with, had a request from Mr. Jorge, oh my gosh, I don't have it here. Garcia, I'm sorry, from LUCAP. And for a meeting with Finance. Finance met, obliged to the meeting, and he showed up to the meeting, but an hour later, another individual from another company showed up. My finance department waited and nothing happened. So really, no major discussions with
Okay.
regards to that.
All right. Now,
And,
the wait time charge doesn't kick in until after 5 minutes, is that correct?
right.
Right, okay. All right, what else?
Basically, that's it. And
Okay.
now we're here to hear from the other cab companies to see what their concerns are.
Okay, do we have anyone that wants to speak to this item, or everybody's very busy filling out their slips? So why don't we have, Mr. Bazo, if you and Mr. Geary could come forward and share with us with regard to Imperial County Transportation's role in this ability to get people around, mobility.
Mark Bosler, your Executive Director for the Imperial County Transportation Commission. And for those of you who don't know, we're the Regional Transportation and Transit Agency for Imperial County. We're responsible for operating the Imperial Valley Transit services throughout the county. But I'm going to ask David Aguirre, our Program Manager, to give you an overview of services that are available here in El Centro, as well as the fare structure that we have for that.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, council members. So ICTC administers the transit system in the Imperial Valley. So we have a number of services that service the city of El Centro. Those services include IVT, which is Imperial Valley Transit, which is the local fixed route system. Circulates throughout the city and other cities in the Imperial County. The Imperial Valley Transit System also has 2 circulator lines here in the city of El Centro, which is the blue and green line. They respectively service the south and the north end of the city. There is also the complimentary 88 paratransit service, which is called IVT Access. So that is a service that is eligible for persons with disabilities to basically utilize the service to get anywhere within the county, starting in El Centro to Calexico or whatever city they'd like to get to. We also have another service called IVT Ride, which is a intra-city dial-a-ride, and that's available to senior citizens, 55 and older, and persons with disabilities. And lastly, our last service that we have is IVT MedTrans, and that service is a service that originates from the city of El Centro and takes passengers to medical appointments in the city of San Diego. The fares associated with each of the services vary based on the areas that it's covering and the routes that it actually pertains to. So the Imperial Valley Transit System has a number of different fares. They have the local zone, which is $1, and that includes the blue and green lines.
Okay.
They have the senior disabled local zone, which is half the price of the regular service, which is 50 cents. We have the regional zone, which is the fee that'll get you from the city of El Centro to, let's say, Brawley, Nyland, Calipatria. That is $1.25. We also have the senior rate available for that, and that's half as much, which is 60 cents. We have the direct, which is $2.50, and those are lines specifically that go, let's say, from El Centro to Brawley directly, no stops in between. We also have IVC Expresses, which travel from Calexico to IVC, and then we have services from El Centro to IVC as well. Those fares are $1.25 and $1.75 for non-students. And we also have the fast trips, which are almost like the direct lines, but they have a few stops in between. The fee for that is $2.25. We have a number of ticket booklets available for each of the different types of fares. They are discounted depending on how much you buy. So that's the fees associated with the fixed route system. The IVT Access, which is the 88 paratransit service, the local zone fee is $2, and the regional zone fee is $2.50. the fees for IVT Ride in the city of El Centro, and that's intra-city, so it stays within the city of El Centro, and also travels to the city of Imperial. Imperial has the option to travel to El Centro as well. So if the service sticks within the city of El Centro, it's $1.25. And if there's individuals from the city of Imperial trying to get to the city of El Centro, that's $1.75. And lastly, we have IVT MedTrans, and that's the service that starts from El Centro, heads to San Diego. And the one-way trip for that under Category A is $7.50. Category B is $15, and PCAs, which are personal care attendants, are $3.50.
So if someone has to be accompanied by a caregiver, it's an
Correct.
additional
They pay-
$3 for that person?
Correct.
Okay.
And that is all I have for the services that are applicable to the city of El Centro. Are there any questions?
Questions for Mr. Aguirre?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Aguirre. So these are really low fares,
Correct.
almost across the board, but these fares are subsidized, correct? They're subsidized through probably state money or federal money.
Correct.
To what extent are these fares subsidized?
I would say in the ballpark of 95%. The majority of it is subsidized by the federal government or the state.
No, so for example, so if you were charging a fare to recover your costs, how much would these fares increase by? Would you
If there was
estimate?
no federal funding at all or state funding,
Right.
it varies based on service, but it could be anywhere from $30 to $50. The ADA paratransit service is actually quite expensive because that one runs.
No, I'm talking just within the city of El Centro.
So within the city of El Centro, it just really just depends on the service. It could range from anywhere from 30, 50, 60, 70, 80. It really depends on where the person is originating from and where they're trying to go.
Even within the city of El Centro, you would expect it to be that much?
Yeah, well, the IVT access service, just as a general concept, is probably about $40 to $50 a trip.
Wow, okay.
Do you have any questions?
Not in light of that information, no.
Yeah, it is heavily subsidized.
No, I'm surprised at the low subsidy on the bus fares, yeah.
Public transit, absolutely. So I did have a question. What's the best way if a person is interested in public transportation and figuring out connectivity? What's the best way for them to understand the routes and how to get from place to place?
Sure, they can reach out to us at our office, and
Okay.
we do a number of different actions. We complete mobility training. We go to offices of different agencies to complete mobility training, show them how the fixed route service works, or the ADA paratransit service works. So there's a number of options in terms of how we can educate the public in terms of what the services do and how they might be able to help them.
Okay.
And we have a good IVT website that has all of the routes on it and the fare structure, tells you what times each route runs. So an individual, if they're totally new to it, they can call our office. If they want to know how to get from A to B, our staff will help them to do that.
Okay.
We also get comments via Facebook about trying to get from A to B. We respond as quickly as possible and
Okay.
let them know that we can help them.
What's the website address, if you recall off the top of your head?
They all have different websites.
Okay.
So IV Transit is basically ivtransit.com.
.com.
Yeah,
Okay.
IVT.com.
Okay. And then if we want to contact ICTC, it'd just be
760-592-4494.
4494. Okay.
Correct.
So, Mark or David, so if somebody in El Centro needed a ride within El Centro, they wanted to go to Walmart, what would be the hours that service will be available to our own residents? Is it 8 to 5 normal business hours?
Well, each service is different. So just to give you an example, the fixed route system operates from roughly about 5:45 in the morning to about 11 at night when IVC is in session. So it's running pretty much throughout the day. The circulators run till about from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. IVT Ride runs the same way, 6 in the morning to 6 at night. Paratransit runs in the same capacity as the fixed route system, so they're from whenever the fixed route system's in operation, the paratransit service is in operation as well.
But I think in a general sense, to your question, to Walmart, 6 to 10 is.
6 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think one of the most beneficial positions that's been funded at ICTC recently is your mobility coordinator, right? Who can literally walk you through the entire process, from how to get a ticket to how to get on the bus, or if, you need wheelchair access or whatever, so.
That's correct.
Okay. And again, the point of this is just to provide additional context and help our community with regard to mobility and
Madam Mayor,
options.
may I ask another question?
Yes.
So I don't know if you guys are able to answer this question, or perhaps some of the taxi operators can answer this. How much of a Uber or Lyft presence do we have both in El Centro and Imperial Valley?
I really don't know that answer. I just know that we do have a presence of Uber here in the county, but how many?
Try it on your phone
I
right
was
now.
gonna try, I'm gonna need one right now.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
I think somebody had told me that there's at least a half a dozen of them.
Yeah, I think I heard 5 or 6.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both very much for being here.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of folks that would like to speak to this item. Mr. Bustamante, Mario?
$6 to the courtroom.
Good
If you-
afternoon. My name is Mario Bustamante. I'm here representing Yellow Cab of El Centro. It was a good presentation from the transit system. Actually, hopefully I can meet with them, because I was recently in Monterey County and I took a cab over there and I saw a lot of transit vouchers that cab drivers use over there. So Monterey County uses the cab system to subsidize some of their transport.
We've been talking
transportation.
about that, Mr. Bustamante, as to whether or not there'd be an option for us for some folks to utilize a partnership with the cab companies. So I'm glad you brought that up, yeah.
In general, like we were here at the last council meeting, and we said we oppose the $7.50 raise in the price, even the new price at $6. As we said, we're not gonna raise our rates. We're gonna remain at $5 and $4 for senior citizens. Just like anybody who uses an Uber, anybody who uses a transit bus, anybody who uses a cab is a whole different customer. And the customers that we have just cannot afford to pay anymore. It's a sad thing, but it's the truth. If we raise it, I think all we're gonna do is lose a lot more customers instead of gaining. And so we know that Uber, you mentioned Uber or Lyft, that's more like the newer generation. There isn't that many, but that's kind of I want to say the younger generation, that have phones, the people in El Centro who use our cab business are the elderly, the people that work in the jobs, in the fast food service, and they just can't afford. They just can't afford for that increase to it's too high. As it
Okay.
is, we don't even agree with the $6 one, but.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So, Mr. Bustamante, so I'm a little confused, because you're here today, and also the gentleman that was here 2 weeks ago,
I think, yeah.
My father.
Yes.
your father also said that, you were not planning to increase your rates, right? But the letter that we have that is signed by, among other people, yourself,
Oh, it's not signed by us.
was Angel Robledo. No, you're not Angel, I'm sorry. So who's Angel Robledo?
Angel, and he was here at the last meeting, and he said he was misinformed as to what that letter intended to say. And so he signed it, but he took back his signature. At the last council meeting, he said he wanted his
Okay.
signature removed from there, that he did not speak for Yellow Cab.
Okay, because the letter that we have, so and I have a couple of concerns with the letter, and I don't know whether you can answer it or maybe somebody else would, is that, the people that signed this were unhappy about the raise because they felt it was too low. That they were asking for the council to increase rates by $2 to $3 per trip.
That has nothing to do, like I said, with, As far as with myself, my father, with our company, we had not seen that letter until we heard of it, and then we got a copy of it by coming and getting a copy from the city. But as you can tell, it's not our signature. We've made it clear that we want no part of that. We're not gonna raise our rates. We disagree with that letter and with what it says.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I do have one, did you have any other comments, Mr. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. We also
Thank you.
have American Taxi, looks like CARE. Mr. Medina?
Mayor, members of the board, hi, my name is Orlando Medina. Yes, you know, it can be 50 cents is not a cost of living for 10 years, I'm sorry. And you cannot stop progress. Ubers, Lyft, it's progress. See, if you don't like to increase the payment to $7.50, let's put taxi meters. I mean, it's better for everybody. See, we have complaints. Let's say you're at Lucky, and then you're going to the mall. And then you charge them. Well, right now with the rate, it's $6. They say, why 6? It's just right here. So if you were to have taxi meters, I think it's a lot better. It would be about $3.50, maybe $4. From Walmart to the mall is 6.2 miles. In Yuma, 3.4 miles is $10.22. We make drivers, we make about $5 or $6. You could even ask Yellow Cab to bring they have a list of calls. And I'll tell you what, if they made more, the drivers, than $9, by the end of this month, American Taxi Care is gone. Bring the list of the calls. I used to work for Yellow Cab, I know. The drivers were not making about $5, $6, $7 an hour. That's not right. You know, it's unjust for us to go across the border and get our cars fixed over there. I bet you that over there in San Diego, they fix them there in San Diego. What I'm telling you is the truth, you know, it's, put taxi meters.
So what would be the cost for you to install taxi meters?
You know what, I haven't even investigated that. Do you know about what the cost about taxi meters?
Depend, choose you, maybe $200 each.
South California have taxi meters. Just here, us here in the Imperial, we don't have anything. Now Uber could go and pick up in Imperial. They could pick up anywhere. We need a special permit to go into Imperial. They could go and pick up at the San Diego airport, and we cannot go, you know. So it's like unfair, but it's progress. That's what it is, you know. Progress, it's Uber, Lyft, and there's another company that's coming out, I think. But put taxi meters. If you want to take 6 months, take 6 months, but put taxi meters, you know. If you're talking about, I want to help people, sure. I want to help people. I don't just say it, I do it. That's in English. The best. You could give even, if you have taxi meters, you can get a percentage. The people, you know, I understand there's a lot of need here, but you could help them. Last 7 days of the month, when people don't have any money, we go and pick them up from the doctors, from the hospital. Anybody that calls on the last 7 days of every month. Thank you. We need taxi meters.
Thank you. Okay, folks, so this is...
Was that the last speaker?
That was the last speaker slip that I received. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak to this item?
Can I ask Mr. Medina a question? I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Of course.
He was the last speaker. So, Mr. Medina, we had a really, what I'm going to consider healthy debate at the council when we first took action. And there was no representation from taxi companies except one individual that was here. And yet the discussion revolved around how do you guys make money? Because it just seemed obvious that it's difficult to make money in this industry given what you're charging and the wait time and all those factors that the discussion revolved around that. But there was no one here representing taxi companies that we can ask some questions that we have. But I have to say that that discussion, and you can go back and look at it on video, was professional. The council asked good questions. In no way did we disrespect your industry or the taxi drivers, and we in no way mocked you or looked down upon you or discriminate you. But the letter that we have that is signed by you
Yeah, it's signed by me.
says that we were dissatisfied, disappointed, we're outraged, we feel that we were mocked,
Well,
disrespected, cheated, looked down upon, and discriminated. So I'd like to know what gave you that impression that council meeting, we in some way had this discussion that was not what really took place.
I signed it, but actually, I wouldn't say, I didn't write it. And when everybody's signing, you know, you just can't change things and put it in. I'm sorry if I, you know, with my signature there, I did anything incorrect. I'm a different person than what I signed there. But we do need taxi meters. You know, if you want to take longer, you know, I don't know, 6 months instead of charging the $650, go ahead, take, for me, I mean, for my part of you, take 6 months. But, you know, put meters. You can't stop progress. Everybody in California has, even Mexicali. You get in a cab in Mexicali, they have meters. The minimum is $250, 45 pesos, $250. And the wage over there for a day of work is 78 pesos, which is about $3 and something cents a day. So, you know.
So can I ask you another question?
Sure.
So we have a comparison of what other taxi services are charging in other parts of the valley. So if this is correct, it tells me that in Calexico, the rate is $5, that in Brawley, the rate is $4.50, and that in Imperial is $5. Is that correct to your knowledge?
Yeah, but there's nobody in Imperial. They.
No, that's true.
You know, there's nobody in Imperial. They take them from El Centro to Imperial, which is $10. Calexico is it's the border. They get a lot of trips into Coachella, Indio, San Diego, everywhere, Yuma, even LA, because they don't want to lose their jobs. Most of the people, they have an emergency, they can rent a car rental, you know, or things like that at different times. So not only that, about 90,000 people cross the board. Now, if you're in November, December, January, you're talking about 120,000 more, plus about, what, 50,000 that Calexico has? So you're talking almost 200,000 for the amount of taxis that are there. So there's no comparison, you know, it's a big difference.
And when we had the initial hearing where we increased it to $6, were you guys aware that we were having that discussion a month ago?
I had a meeting on that day. So in fact, the person that came in here, her name is Dixie. So she was representing American Taxi Care.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm sorry. But even though, if there's 2, 3 other companies over here, 2 companies? Three. And I'm pretty sure if you want to go ahead and go for the taxi meters, I'm sure you would wait, right?
Yeah.
See? So think about it, you know, on the taxi meters. I think you can't stop progress. You know, sooner or later, there's going to be the taxi meters coming up.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Ms. Salcido, did you have something else to add?
Yes, I wanted to add that the initial letter, the request for the rate increase came from Jorge Garcia from Blue Cab, and he is here in the audience, so maybe some of those questions can be geared towards Mr. Garcia, and maybe he can answer some of those questions that you have with regards to the rate increase.
Okay, I had no blue slips from anybody else that wants to speak, so
Madam Mayor, I
Madam
believe
Mayor.
our city attorney has some comments too, that maybe some provisions in there that may help out as well.
Okay. Ms.
Madam
Martin?
Mayor, in regard to waiting on some of these changes, there is a change in California law which will take effect on January 1st of 2019, which will require revision of your taxi cab ordinance. It would be, were you to wait for some of these changes, after discussion with the city manager, our suggestion is we incorporate the changes requested by the police department, changes required by state law, and then a meeting can be scheduled with the taxi cab operators to show them how the ordinance will be changing. That seems to me the point at which some of these other changes could be addressed. We think after looking at the ordinance, we can make it more user-friendly.
Okay, but isn't that kind of a parallel track that we can run? I mean, can't we ratify the action that we took at the meeting in August?
You
with
can
regard-
uphold it, yes.
We can uphold that and then move forward with the working group to
Yes.
make the modifications that are going to be
Yes,
necessary by January.
And Ms. Salcido and I, in light of those changes, did discuss this when this request came in. It is unrelated to the change in state law.
Very good.
So, Betsy, I'm sorry, I missed that timeframe that you said?
The law takes effect on January 1st of 2019. It's not one of those ordinances where you have to have it in place, but we would like to try to get the changes done as soon as we can once the law takes effect.
What would be some of the expected changes that we
There's
anticipate?
additional requirements placed on drivers. There's some restriction on where you're able, on the location which can be licensed. Some of these changes in taxi cab regulations are correspond to those that they're making for Uber and Lyft and similar drivers, so that if you require a license, you only have to be licensed in one jurisdiction, for example, not a number of them. Most of them are driver requirements and reporting requirements.
Could we have like an open meeting and invite all of the taxi cab companies and representatives, and they can be part of the information sharing? Okay. Okay, I think we've probably spent enough time on that, so if there's any other questions, then what's the pleasure of the council with regard to the
Mayor,
reconsideration?
Mayor, this is a public hearing.
Oh,
You need to close.
anybody else wants to talk during the public hearing? Going to close the public hearing, come back to council.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I think we should go forward with what we previously approved. It does not have any restrictions on any taxi cab company charging what they want to charge. It's just a guideline, and then we should have an informational and invite all of them back once we have more guidance from the state.
Okay, so they can't charge in excess of the $6 is what you meant, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then I think that with regard to a workshop, let's find a time that would be convenient for everybody. It doesn't need to be part of our city council meeting. Yes,
Let me
sir.
ask a question, maybe from our city attorney. So Betsy, a suggestion was made that the city allow the machines, what are they called?
Meters.
The
The meter.
meters to be installed in taxi cabs. Is that, in order for a taxi cab company to do that, that would have to be authorized by the city?
We probably will put some provisions that govern that into the ordinance. It'd be a good time to do that. One clarification, the increased rates you approved already are in effect. There was no authority to not put them into effect.
Got it, okay,
So essentially, you would take no action to change them this evening.
okay.
Okay.
So
But-
with that, oh, I'm
So
sorry.
so going back to the meters, you said that the law, and I know that's early, because we'll have that full discussion next year sometime, but
The new law does not regulate meters except as to record keeping. If you want to look at meters in the cabs, there are additional provisions you may want to place in your ordinance as to rates, for example, reporting and how you deal with the meters in the cabs. There are samples, for example, of places where they have metered cabs.
so maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but if the city was to allow meters in taxi cabs, that would require all taxi cab companies to have meters, or would companies have the option
It would be
to
I
have
would
meters or charge
suggest-
a flat rate?
I would suggest an option, but that's one of the things you would want to talk about and look at.
Okay, fine.
Okay?
Good.
No, essentially by not taking action, you are affirming your decision, which is in place now.
Okay, everybody okay with moving on to the next action item?
Madam Mayor, I have one question.
Yes.
Betsy, maybe you might know this. In regards to meters, so let's say we were to move in that direction to go to meters, what provisions then would be in place to mandate that the drivers utilize the meters as opposed to still just picking up fares and charging maybe a flat rate and not utilizing the meter?
In places where there's a number of cabs and meters, there are requirements for how the meter is used, when it's turned on, how you keep track of, there's reporting requirements for the meters. So those kinds of provisions would be put into your ordinance to assure that when the meter is used, that's the amount that's going to be charged, not more and not less.
But does it mandate that they utilize the meter when they pick up a fare? Or is it discretionary?
In some places, it's mandated, in other places, it's discretionary. I think, again, that's one of the things you need to talk about. Practically speaking, I can see it being confusing if you have both, but from a flexibility standpoint, for smaller operators, there may be some benefits.
But there's a lot of places that use a standard fare.
Yes,
Right?
there is.
So.
As well as meters.
Flew into New York, right? They have a meter
Airport,
in the
yeah.
cab, and it's, $35 to get you from JFK to Manhattan or whatever. Same thing when I flew in for the League of California Cities Conference. The cab fare was set between the airport and the hotel, even though there was a meter in the cab.
Although they'll
So,
run the meter because they have to,
yeah,
but
so,
the fare is set.
yeah, so we could have a combination. So I think that this is good news, that we have an opportunity to work collaboratively with our taxi cab companies in the next several months. If the new state law is effective January 1, then I think we should probably try to have something in play before that then, okay?
Agree.
Okay, so it looks like we are not going to take any action on that. The rate will continue at $6 with the option to charge less if you want to, but not more. Okay? All right, we're moving on then to item number 10. Mr. Campos. I'm sorry. Before you get started, we are going to have Mr. Jackson announce that he is recusing himself.
Yeah, the advice of counsel, I actually do work for one of the applicants that's in question tonight, so I am going to recuse myself from this item.
Thank you.
Come by,
We'll come get you when we're done,
Okay.
maybe.
Mr. Campos, brevity is your friend.
Okay, here we go. Okay,
All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. We're here to discuss today any necessary action regarding the award of the 2018 overlay project. It's exciting for us that we have continued, we are continuing our maintenance effort into our streets. So let's get started. We have, as last month you approved plans and specifications to go out to bid for some of our projects. Some of the funding sources are SB1, LTA Measure D, El Centro Measure P, and our own enterprise funds for some of the water treatment works. We've divided the project into 3 schedules. The first schedule is to do some work along La Brucherie Avenue and Ross Avenue in support of SB1, as we provided information to the state. The second Schedule B, is our downtown parking lot improvements. This is funded by our Measure P sales tax. And as I mentioned, the Schedule C for the water treatment parking lot. Just to give you an idea of where the locations are, La Brucherie Avenue from Barbara Worth going north onto Lincoln. Right now, we're just south of this boundary, Barbara Worth South. That's the project that we're working on, where we have plenty of traffic control out there ongoing. The second major area that we're targeting is Ross Avenue on the east end of town, from Dogwood Avenue to our eastern boundary, city boundary, just east of Industry Way. And also we're targeting State Street, which is by a school in that area, just south of Main. We were lucky to receive 3 very competitive bids, very close bids, very tight bids on from three contractors that we've done work in the past from all of them. Granite Construction, we have a current contract on Laboratory Avenue widening. Aggregate Products, we've done work with them before on overlay projects, and Hazard Construction as well, and plenty of projects for street projects. So these are three very good companies, and we're lucky to have three bids here. So first, I want to talk about a little bit of what we're going to be doing, and just to get everybody on board on the terminology of what it is. We're going to be installing what we call an ARAM System 2. This is in a System 3. So starting with System 2, and from bottom to top, as it is constructed, in the green you see 3/4 inch minimum leveling course. This is an asphalt layer that gets installed over the roadway. Then we install a 3/8 inch thick ARAM surface, and then we go back to on top of that we cover up with a slurry, which is just kind of if you can imagine oil and sand together, kind of mixed and spread across. Notice the different colors. The green is pretty standard. I think tonight the discussion is going to be on the yellow orange highlighted area, the 3/8 inch ARAM. System 3, same deal. Starting from the bottom to the top, we have a 3/4 inch to 1 inch leveling course, basically smooth out all the cracks that are in the roadway, the thermal cracking, which are those bumpy areas that are lifted up asphalt. So this kind of levels everything off, so hence leveling course. On top of that, we do a 3/8 inch ARAM, again, same as the System 2, but in System 3 was different. We add on top, instead of a slurry, we add a 0.1 to 0.17 asphalt rubber hot mix. So it's a rubberized type of asphalt aggregate. And again, I think tonight what's in question is the orange area or the yellow area, which is your ARAM. So what is ARAM and how does it look like? So this is ARAM binder spray application on the picture on the left. As you can see, the material when applied at a temperature that is applied is very smoky. This picture is not in California because that wouldn't be approved in California. In California, there's a filter that gets attached behind it. So when we go into residential streets, our residents will not see this. That's the first part of the ARAM. The ARAM is it's a spray application binder, and better seen as an after product in the picture to the right. So over here, this black area is the sprayed after it's been applied. After it's been applied, it's followed by this, in this case, this orange piece of equipment that's actually moving forward to us. The truck is driving in reverse here, and it's spreading the rock over it, and basically locking the rock with the binder, and this creates a membrane, basically. So this is the system that we're installing. It's a kind of a two-part system. Together, this spray and the rock is what we talk what we imply or we're stating when we say ARAM. So now, we opened bids, as I mentioned, on the 16th of August, and we received a bid protest from Aggregate Products on August 22nd. On September 7, Granite Construction submitted a response to the bid process, and we reviewed that. We reviewed the request. There's, in your agenda has additional information on some of the concerns that were brought up. In summary, Granite is stating that there's some requirements on desert environments that are not required or valid or needed for this project. There were some typos that were identified, but also, that was API's. Going back, I apologize for that. So Granite made a statement that there were some typos that were there, and those typos were corrected. They also made a statement that, or API made a statement that Granite provided information on this third environment that was not required. So we'll talk about those going forward. But bottom line, there's a requirement on the bid that the bidders need to provide a list of 5 representative references in order for the bid to be considered responsive. When I reviewed the bids, regardless of the bid protest, I found that, and upon review of the bid documents, I found that Granite Construction, who was a low bidder, did not provide enough information on those 5 references, specifically the phone numbers that they listed. I could not get a hold of the projects.
So just to clarify, Mr. Campos, so you did an independent evaluation prior to the bid protest?
Correct. So before we got the bid protest, I was already starting reviewing the documents as was
Right.
submitted, not knowing
Okay.
the bid protest was coming.
Okay.
And I had found out that some of the projects were on the, one where they were in the northern area in California, but mainly I couldn't get a hold of them. So, so I started calling, I have a detailed log of the phone calls, numbers, dates, times that I called all the representatives. Two were wrong numbers, two were, two were, just, some numbers were disconnected. At the end, after 3 or 4 attempts, I was able to get a hold of one of the 5, which did provide a good reference.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, and going back to this, I'm recommending that we proceed and find Granite's bid non-responsive for this reason, for not providing the required references for the project that were applicable. We were not able to verify whether or not even they were projects, good projects. If we go with this path, we would be proceeding with construction award on September 18 tonight. We would start in construction on October the 8th, and we'd have construction complete in January of 2019. So right now, staff recommendation is to reject the low bid as non-responsive and awarded the 2018 street overlay and parking lot projects to Aggregate Products Inc. and to, or not provide staff direction. I know both companies, Aggregate Products and members of the Aggregate Products and Granite Construction Board here in the audience. I'm sure they have speaker slips, but I'm here to answer any further questions and provide additional information on how I reviewed the bid process if that's needed.
Okay, very good. Any preliminary questions, or do we
Just
want
a
to
real
move to?
simple question. Abraham, so on the, I noticed that the contingency that we've outlined, the $150,000, is only 5% of the award, and typically we do 10% contingencies. Is there a reason for that, or we just don't have the money?
No, it's, we have some built in on the bid items itself, some areas on the parking lots, for example, because once we go out there through the Measure P funding, there's some unknowns out there that we're gonna hit, so we've added, built into the bid, some contingencies, so I did not feel the need to ask for the full 10 front, because there's some already built into the bid.
Any other preliminary questions?
You know, just real quick, in regards to the construction completion, and that would be completion of all 3 projects, right? Schedule A, B, and C?
Correct.
And I'm assuming that would be January 2019, correct?
Yes,
Right.
I did, somewhere I did correct that, that was pointed out to me. And wherever it was, sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. No, I'm actually very excited about the projects. Just hope we can work this out and start turning some dirt and making some things happen over there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we do have 3 speaker slips. We will ask Jeff Mercer, representing Granite, Caleb Ashby with American Pavement Systems, and followed by Mr. John Corcoran with Aggregate Products, Inc. So, Mr. Mercer?
Yeah, Jeff Mercer, Granite Construction Company. Obviously, I'm in opposition to you not awarding the project to Granite. We have our subcontractor here that the question as far as the projects, and I'd like to have him opportunity to talk, and then I'll follow that up.
Okay, very good. Mr. Ashby?
Good evening, council. Thank you for giving this opportunity to speak. This is by no means a dispute against the ARAM system, as it is a great system. It's one of the most widely used pavement preservation systems in the state of California, including Caltrans. Caltrans uses 50% of its funds towards what we call ARAM as asphalt rubber aggregate membranes, fancy word for chip seal. The problem we have with this process is, not the process, but the bidding process the city used, is the specification they used, it's not necessarily Green Book, it's not necessarily Caltrans, it's a specification that is put together by Western Pavement Maintenance Association, which is pretty much tied in with manhole construction and API. They're pretty much all one and the same. And what the specification is calling for is for us to give you, the city, 5 projects in a desert region that have been sitting for 2+ years. There's 5 contractors that can perform the ARAM system in the state of California. There's only 1 that can meet that qualification. So by using that spec, you've basically sole sourced that product, which is not legal per the California contract code. There is no other contractor that can meet those requirements. Not only that, if you're gonna qualify a contractor based on experience, you have to go through a pre-qualification process. You cannot disqualify a contractor at the time of bid, which is how the city went about this in this situation. Basically, by letting Granite Construction bid on this job, they deemed them qualified to bid on the job. You cannot pre-qualify a contractor after you've already accepted their bid. You have to do, and I have the California Public Contract Code here if you guys want to take a look at it.
So, sir, I'm just wondering, are you providing a legal opinion at this point in regards to interpretation of this code?
Yeah, what I'm saying is first of all, the way the city spec this process, and again, this is the most widely used pavement preservation technique in the state of California, besides maybe a standalone slurry. And this is the only agency in the state of California I know that says you have to meet these qualifications. We just got done for Caltrans on 395. Desert climate, we're certified to work for Caltrans. Why could we not work for El Centro? So as I do my research, and company-wide as we do our research, we start looking into public contract code and how these things work. And we've had these battles before. This isn't the first one. Not that this is a battle, but we do want to get to the bottom of this because El Centro has done this before. It's not the first time. And it just excludes all other contractors from bidding work except for manhole. They're the only ones that can get your work, that's not legal in the state of California. Not only that, if you're gonna qualify contractors, you have to pre-qualify contractors 5 days prior to the bid opening. The city did not do that. So with that being said, they pretty much qualified us as a contractor by accepting our bid. We're qualified to work in the state of California per our California contractor's license. We, at APS, we're the subcontractor for Granite Construction on this ARAM process. We do more work than any other contractor in the state of California with the ARAM process. There is no contractor that does more work than us. So to say we're not qualified to do work for the city of El Centro, when we just got done doing work for the state of California on 395, which witnesses the same temperatures, heavier traffic loads. And I understand what the city is worried about when they write this spec. Your application rates, they bumped them up a little bit with the binder and the rock. You're going over a fresh leveling course, which you typically don't raise your binder application rates. You would lower them. But so I understand their concern. They want to avoid flushing and bleeding. But with our bid, you have a bonded performance bond. You're covered for a year. The city's fully covered. So why would we have to meet qualifications that no other city asks, or county or state asks us to do?
Can I ask a couple of questions,
Yeah,
please?
yeah.
So how long has American Pavement Systems been in business?
5 years.
5 years. If I understand right, the bid process asked for 5 projects within the last 2 years.
Right.
Correct? So if you've been in business for 5 years, I would think that you would have been able to meet that 2-year requirement.
We're about 2 months away.
Okay, so it's a timing issue.
No, it's a legality issue. It's not necessarily legal to do it the way the city did it. You have to pre-qualify contractors
Okay,
if
so
you're going to
then
make them meet requirements.
That leads me to a couple of other questions then. If you felt that the city's bid or request for proposals was illegal, at what point in time did you bring that to the city's attention?
Last year, this same time.
No, with regard to this specific
I didn't bid this
project.
project. I can't answer that question specifically. I don't have a.
Okay, so at the point in time that you're alleging that the city has done something contrary to the public contracting code, is the point in time when potentially you're not going to be awarded the contract, but you didn't bring that up until this evening.
Madam
that
Mayor,
correct?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think we can take care of the public contract code issue. While I appreciate your bringing this, these are state codes for state agencies. I think you do quite a bit of work for Caltrans, so those would apply. I'll also point out that if Granite had provided the responses that they provided after the bid, there's a high likelihood they were the lowest bidder, they would have been awarded the bid. But for reasons we can discuss after we let this gentleman finish talking, all of these pieces fit together here to come to the point where we are.
Well, and that would be my last question. So the great segue there, Ms. Martin, is why was there the discrepancy with regard to the references? When Mr.
As far as
Campos-
not being able to reach whatever contacts we gave them, I don't
Yes.
know. I could throw this out as an example. If we did work for the city of El Centro 2 years ago, and it sat for 2 years, and we gave you Terry Hagan, your ex-public works director, as a contact, he just retired. How are you gonna get a hold of him? You can't. There's a lot of turnover in public agencies.
Well, right. So isn't it incumbent upon you as submitting the bid to make sure that you're still giving us good phone numbers?
It's hard to track people down, and we bid, I would venture to guess, 400 jobs a year. So I get where you're going with that. I
Yeah, because
understand
if
the
I'm
question.
applying for a new job, I'm going to make sure that the references I put down for somebody to verify that they should hire me,
Right.
I'm darn well going to make
No,
sure that they got the
I
name of the
completely
person
understand
and
what
the
you're
phone
saying.
number. So
I completely understand what you're saying.
I'm kind of at a disconnect there with you, so.
Yeah, but that's what American Pavement Systems is asking for the city to not make a decision tonight, to look at some of the information I brought forth to avoid litigation on this project. We do believe there's some legal issues on this, not only with the pre-qualification, but you basically, the way your spec is written, it's a manhole spec through and through. They wrote it, they gave it to the city handed it out. Public Contract Code is also very clear. You cannot give a contractor an advantage. They're the only ones that can meet your specification. You just handed them the job with no fair competition and took $34,000 of taxpayer dollars off the table. I heard other people speaking earlier that could use that money. You have the biggest rubber contractor in front of you, Granite, a very responsible contractor, and you're gonna say they can't do work for you because we didn't provide 5 jobs that have been in the desert for 2 years or longer, because we can't. We don't have that. We can't do it. There is no other contractor in the state that can. So every year when El Centro does this, it goes straight to manhole. Nobody else can get this job.
Except in 2 months, you're going to qualify. Number
for this
one, and number two, Granite is doing a boatload of work for us right now on the
Not us,
nursery.
and not this job.
Right,
So
no,
on this
but-
job, have you guys move forward going the way you're going, you've sole sourced this product,
Okay.
and you're giving it to the one contractor. You've used their specification, and you're giving it to the contractors that gave you the specification you're using.
Madam
Thank you.
Mayor, I think since, I'm going to forget your name, and I
Haley.
apologize, has mentioned litigation, we probably need to hear from the other 2 people so that
Yes.
we can create a clear record here.
Oh, we will. Mr. Mercer wanted to come back up after Mr. Ashby, and then the next speaker will be Mr. Carpenter.
That's it.
Thank
Unless
you.
you guys have any questions for me.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Frankly.
Mr. Mercer.
Yes, I would like to voice that you ought to take a little bit of time, spend some time with your legal, go back and look at this, because again, you have sole sources. And you made a comment that in 2 months, then you would have 2 people that could do this. Again, they are very capable of doing the work. You are spending taxpayers' dollars, going to the second bidder. 34,000, I heard the same thing that everybody else did about the taxi guys and the rest of it. You're turning around and adding another $150,000 to it, again, to do it for one contractor. And yes, I wish that they had filled in additional projects. He talks about 395. They've also done work out here on Interstate 8. They've done work on 115. They've done quite a bit of work for Caltrans, separate to working for us. So again, I would please wish that you would spend a little bit more time and look at this before you immediately vote on something tonight and spend excess taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a speaker slip slip here from John Corcoran with Aggregate Products, Inc. Is that my last one?
Good evening, members of the City Council. John Corcoran, Aggregate Products, API. We've done several jobs for the city of El Centro, and just to kind of cut to the chase, what you've heard before is more of a smoke screen. This is a very simple situation here. First, we didn't write the spec. This was written by the city of El Centro. They had a broad area that they defined as a desert environment. I don't think the Pacific Northwest qualifies for a desert environment. My understanding is that APS has jobs, as mentioned by Mr. Mercer, several here in Imperial County that would have qualified for the qualification. They screwed up for whatever reason. They didn't fill in the bid right. It's the same request as if someone didn't sign the bid proposal or the submission for bids. They didn't sign the bid. They didn't sign their bond. It's a non-waivable, and your city attorney can attest to this. It's a non-waivable defect that they just did not do what the specification required. For whatever reason, they did not comply with the specification. If they had complied with the specification, we would not be here protesting the work. But it's a clear black and white issue, and that is, I just have to correct a couple of things. Mr. Mercer brought it up. APS has performed work in a desert environment, and the jobs that they're talking about, which are what I would say further than Imperial County, we had a map that was submitted with our protest that showed what in general was a desert region in California, and it goes up to the Kern County area all the way down to the Mexican border, the one in here in yellow. So they had the projects to submit, but they didn't. That would be a patently unfair competitive disadvantage if they could turn in information after the bid and remediate what their deficiency was at bid time. That's in essence what they're asking you to do. Let us turn in something now. Maybe we should turn in another list of subcontractors. Better yet, maybe we should turn in the bid schedule with revised pricing. That's not the way public works, competitive bidding works. Granite knows that. APS knows that. They had a non-waivable defect. And no one likes to lose a bid. No one likes to make a mistake. We've done it before. We've lost bids on that. My assessment here, it's sour grapes. This is a solid protest that we submitted, and the job should be awarded to API for the reasons I gave you. They have a non-waivable defect, and it's as simple as that. Nothing more beyond that. We are not a sole source, and if they had filled the bid out correctly, they would have probably been the one being awarded the contract right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Corcoran. At this time, I'm going to ask council if they have questions that they'd like to ask of staff or any of the three gentlemen who have presented, or to our city attorney.
Madam Mayor, I just think it's important that we do clear up the fact that we're not following the law. I take great offense to that. When a partner like Granite accuses us of not following the law, or a representative accuses us of not following the law. So again, I would ask our mayor, or excuse me, I would ask our city attorney to ensure that we are following the law and following the guidance of public contractors and the codes that are necessary. But again, when we get accused of not following the law, it's very, very disturbing. So I would like to clear that up, Madam Mayor, if we can, just to give the public the reassurance that we are following the law, and that staff is doing everything appropriate, above board, and acting in an ethical manner.
Madam Mayor, I think if we can have all the council comments, and I can summarize it, I think there's some points that need to be placed on the record of the hearing in the event that Granite moves forward with litigation.
So my question, kind of ancillary to what Mr. Cardenas just said, is we had the representation from Mr. Corcoran that API did not write the specifications, and I would just like that to be validated by Mr. Campos as a foundational question. Secondly, I believe it was also Mr. Corcoran who stated that this is a non-waivable defect that Granite
did not fill out the bid document correctly. The deficiency existed at the time of bid submission and could not be corrected after the fact. So I'd like you to address those points as well. Anything else that you want to? Wait till they talk.
Well, just briefly, Madam Mayor, as a licensed California attorney, I feel that I always respond well when I get threatened with litigation. And frankly, it's disheartening knowing that we've done business with this company in the past, and the fact that based off of a clear deficiency in their bidding process, that they would come before the council and essentially bring this issue up. I feel that we're confident in our decision-making, and I'll leave it to our city attorney to explain why.
Mr. Silva.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have some questions, but you asked those questions ahead of me. My question was going to be, why is this being brought to our attention now, where I think if it was so clearly incorrect, it could have been brought during the bid process, perhaps. The issue on ensuring that the references that were provided were valid. I think that I was going to ask that question. You've asked that. I was going to ask Abraham to kind of go through the bid process, development process, to clear any perceptions that there might be in terms of this being written by for a single provider. The other question, Abraham, that I'd like you to address is, what's the necessity or the logic behind asking bidders to submit 5 references that, I guess, in the desert environment within the last 2 years? I think it was stated that that's not required, so that may be a local requirement, but if you can explain the logic behind that as well.
All right. So a couple of questions. One regarding how the specs are created. So we have a history of different projects and different materials and tools in our toolbox that we utilize. I do have a list comprised of the different projects that we've done over the past 5 years. How many have been ARAM? How many have been TruePay fabric or Merafi fabric or some type of inner layer that may not be ARAM, maybe something else. There's always specifications provided by a variety of vendors. We evaluate them. We take what works for us and we modify it. We as staff write our own specifications based on information and industry standards. So as this was mentioned, the specification is heavily tailored after the Green Book. Green Book is an industry standard for this type of construction. Regarding the why we use the temperature, or not the temperature in this case, the desert environment, as you know, we do have a very hot climate, as I mentioned, and was brought in by, it was Dave, I'm sorry, from APS, that there's concerns for bleeding in our area. We've had situations, or we know of situations in other areas where the incorrect application of this type of product, the ARAM component that I showed in the pictures, if done incorrectly, could result into bleeding, tracking in the wheels. I mean, in worst case, extreme cases, into driving into your driveway or front door if you're stepping on it. So we are very worried about it. It is a great product. It's one of many products that we've used. We used full depth reclamation systems. We've used ARAM fabrics, mill and fill reconstructions. So I just want to make sure that we are not limiting competition. This is a list of the projects that we've done in the past 5 years. Many of them bid by Granite. Some of them have been awarded to us. There's one that I found out that was awarded to Granite Article 3 improvements, that they were the second low bidder, and an exemption was made, and the low bidder was found unresponsive. It went to Granite. So there's a variety of contractors that we've been reaching out. So I do take offense as well, to some extent, on saying that we are sole sourcing. We try to keep this open. The last ARAM project that we did in the city of El Centro was in 2013. Again, there is a need for this project because of the nature of it, to make sure that we get a qualified contractor. To that extent, I did reach out to every reference that they provided after the fact. Out of those, I was able to get a hold of maybe a quarter to a third of them. but the ones that I did get a hold of, the additional references, did provide good information from them on future projects. I think they will meet the specification of the requirement. I have no concern with the contractor. It is a technical aspect that they did not provide the listed documents or the listed references and phone numbers.
Thank you, Abraham. Madam Mayor, may I ask a follow-up question?
Okay, I wanted to compliment Mr. Campos. This is great to see the last 5 years' worth of road projects and to see the variety of companies that we have used. Yes. Mr.
Thank you.
Silva?
So I would like to ask Granite, or
Mercer?
Mr. Mercer, or I didn't write the name of the other gentleman.
Ashby.
Ashley?
Ashley, perhaps Ashley, yes. So the accusation of the city, using aggregate work to come up with a bid, that's a serious one. What leads you to make that conclusion?
Can you repeat that?
What leads you to make the conclusion that this bid was written specifically for aggregate?
When I say specification, the city did reference Green Book, which is typical. A lot of agencies do that. LA County does it. A lot of agencies south of the Grapevine do reference Green Book. And that's your technical specs. That's your shot rate, your aggregate application rate, whatnot. The part that everybody says they get offended by what I say, and I don't want to offend anybody, but we've seen this with other agencies. Imperial County had the same verbiage of the 5 projects. We know where that comes from. It's not a guess. We know where that comes from. Imperial County had the same thing. They did away with it because it's just not right. There is no, can I ask the city who else has done ARAM work for you?
Well, let's just let him finish, okay?
So the allegation that the city kind of lined this up for the country, that only is within the arena of the five references?
It may not have been intentional. I'm not saying the city did this intentionally by any means. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is by the way this.
I think that's exactly what you said, sir.
If I did, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. What I'm saying is the way the spec is written, it hands Manhole the ARAM portion of the project because despite what John said, there is no other contractor in the state that can meet those qualifications. We can't. We're the closest, but we can't either. Nobody else can meet those qualifications. And by doing that, you essentially are sole sourcing a product. Not trying to offend anybody, but the facts are the facts. And if there's only one person that can meet those qualifications, that product's now sole sourced. And that's against California code.
Thank you.
Okay, but this is where I have the real disconnect, is because your statement that it's a sole source contract, and yet what I'm understanding from Mr. Campos is, had the bid documents been properly completed with the correct references, that more likely than not, Granite would have been awarded the contract. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah,
So.
So even if we didn't meet the requirements, we still would have been awarded the job? That doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. This is my disconnect here.
What I would say would be a very different discussion if they were submitted 4 out of the 5 represented projects within the desert environment.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Martin?
So I've got to add something to that. I'm sorry. We took issue with that because of the projects that we listed. They did the work. The problem that we had was that 4 of the people would not answer the phone. We did have one answer. I called and talked to him today. And he said, yes, the city did call me. I called all the rest, and I got an answering service, if you will. And so to add to the point, again, Terry Hagan was here for a number of years, and if they had listed him and they would call here, they would probably not get any response. As far as the desert, and we made issue of this in our response to you initially, I mean, a desert is lack of rainfall. I mean, you got the high desert, you got the low desert. The projects that they listed all fit within that requirement. But the response that we got back was you went down and then narrowed it right back down here to Imperial County. And APS will have done enough work again here in 2 months that then they would be also one that could do your very targeted area. And right now you have one. And I would think that, again, hearing that we have 5 contractors that can do this rubber chip seal throughout the state, that you would want to have more competition than one. I go back to the filling the documents out correctly. I mean, you waived the minor issues that they had. Again, they didn't have somebody on the other phone to answer your questions. And I may get some responses back from them because, again, I left messages, and I'm sure Abraham left the same.
Okay, thank you.
But again, it's $34,000 of taxpayers' funds. And I would please wish you would spend some time with your legal people before you make a decision and go from there. I'm not threatening anything. I just, as a taxpayer, again, I think that it would definitely make some sense to look at the way your specification is written.
Thank you, Mr. Mercer.
A summary, perhaps a little longer than normal, given the circumstances. First of all, we have discussed this. We anticipated this response by Granite based on previous experience. Granite is a current, I believe, city contractor. They're working on the Labroucherie project. I will comment that in the event there is litigation by them, it will require the payment of taxpayer money, so I find that argument somewhat disingenuous. But let's summarize the facts. These were specifications developed based on the experience of people in the department and Abraham's expertise, probably worked on by Mr. Hagan in the past, because that's when he was here when the last overlay was done. They refer to the desert environment because there has been an issue here and in other desert environments, as I understand it, as a layperson, with this working because of your temperatures. In other words, you have a problem if you're going to pave in the middle of the summer because it's too hot. It doesn't work. But in the simplest possible way. So when the bid was written, the way to show that the contractor could do the job was to ask for similar projects in a desert environment. And that was done, and the bid itself says specifically that if you cannot do this, the bid is non-responsive. So this is not a situation where there is a waiver of the fact that, for example, you transposed numbers in a telephone number or someone didn't answer the phone. This is about responsiveness to the bid. It's not a question of responsibility. Not only think, it is not accurate to say there is only one company here, because in fact, Granite and their sub responded to this bid. They did not send in a protest that said, hey, nobody else can respond. They responded. As I understand it from Mr. Campos, had they provided the references they provided after the fact, they might very well have gotten the job that he would have deemed them qualified. I have no idea why that occurred. That is the case. So let me finish. We have taken a careful look, as I said, at the contract code, at the way in which this was done. I realize that Granite may not like it, but it has been done in other places in this way. Perhaps in the future, it can be done differently. There's other ways to do it. But for now, there's nothing that is legally wrong here with independent specs written and an independent determination made by your public works director before Aggregate or API filed their bid protest. The bid documents do provide that if someone who's reading the bid has a problem with them, they need to say so right then before they submit a bid, or they waive their right to waive the issue. So that said, having considered this in preparation and having discussed these specifications as we developed them, I don't agree with the presentation by Granite or by Mr. Ashby from, is it American Paving? If you wish to go forward tonight with this, I have no problem defending litigation should Granite bring it.
Okay. Are there any additional questions from council? Additional questions?
One more comment. I'm sorry, I just looked at my notes. There's been a lot of talk about waiver. The Public Contracts Code and the case law allows you to waive certain kinds of technical defects. If all that had happened here was that someone had made a mistake in a phone number or a name, that's a technical defect that probably could have been waived. But you're not allowed under the case law to waive a defect when to do so would harm the other people who are part of the bids. And that's what would happen here, because this isn't about a waiver of a technicality, it's about a waiver of an essential portion of the bid document. I think that probably the purpose here is to reject the bids, rebid, at which point in time, whether it's now or in 2 months, Granite would be able, as would both, be able to go back, adjust the amount of the bid, rebid this, stand a greater chance of getting it, but in the meantime, the city would have waited 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to move forward with his project.
Well, not only that, the price escalation that's been going on with regard to road projects is just going off the charts with all the SB1 funded projects. So I think that we need to keep in mind what a delay might lead to. So I'm going to return it back to my colleagues and ask any additional questions, or what's the pleasure of the council with regard to the recommendation?
So, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say that personally, I'm not so threatened when people imply or say that they're going to sue us, because we get that a lot, right? But I do care what our city attorney says, and if with the assurances of our city attorney and the work that's been done by our department, I feel confident that the city has done what it needs to do, and that we're in solid legal standing. And also the drawback, if we were to not accept the recommendation, then we'll get sued by aggregate for some illegal action as well, or some allegations of illegality. So with that, I feel comfortable accepting the recommendation from our staff.
Okay, is that a motion by Mr. Silva?
I'd second that.
Second by Mr. Garcia. Have an abstention there. That item passes 4 with 1 abstention. This contract has been awarded then to API, and we'll look forward to construction starting ASAP. Thank you.
Can we take a quick 2-minute break, Mayor, or do we just want to power through this?
Well, we've got one item that's going to take 30 seconds, and we've got one item that, so where's Mr. Jackson?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item, we have 2 members of the Planning Commission who would like to be reappointed. And it's my request that the council allow me to reappoint the 2 existing Planning Commission members. I did check with the Planning Commission staff with regard to their attendance, participation, and both of them have come recommended for reappointment. And that passes 5-0. Very good. We'll move on then to successor agency to the redevelopment agency. This is a commitment of 2007 tax allocation bond funds, $500,000 Countryside 2 family apartment project.
Did we reconvene to?
I'm sorry?
Did we reconvene to, or do we reconvene to?
I don't think we need to.
Do we need to open it up, or we're fine? Okay.
Yeah, because I think this is all.
The minutes will reflect what time you entered into
Thank you.
as successor.
Yeah, because the agenda is for.
Don't threaten a suicide dream.
Okay, here we go.
So, sorry. Haven't had breakfast, lunch, or dinner today, so
Oh,
I'm a little
no,
delirious
not
by
good.
now. Okay. So, the successor agency was approached by Chelsea Investment regarding the commitment of a tax allocation bonds in the amount of $500,000 to assist in the competitiveness of their grant application. So the grant application was submitted already by Chelsea. And the project that they submitted for is a 56-unit affordable housing project. The project is located at 1725 Adams Avenue. So of these 56 units that would be constructed, 10 will be 1-bedroom, 31 will be 2-bedroom, and 15 will be 3-bedroom. So this project would target families that are up to 60% of the area median income for our county. And our area median income is $48,200. So aside from the housing units, there will also be some amenities for the project. These would include like a laundromat, a tot lot, and an area where residents can entertain guests and socialize. Randy from Chelsea is here if you have any questions specific to the project. And I'm also here, of course, also for questions. So this is just a little site plan. I apologize that it's not larger, but you can see there's already an existing project that would somewhat mirror the project they're proposing. The area where it's situated would greatly benefit. I hope that we get awarded because the area would greatly benefit. It used to be an old trailer park, and it's pretty blighted, so this project would be a huge enhancement for that area.
So the existing use have all of those mobile homes been vacated, or?
Yes, and it's been, I believe, abandoned for a long time.
Okay.
There's nothing there. It's a great infill lot.
Okay.
And I don't know, if Randy, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on the project, or?
Sure.
Just, I want to give him an opportunity to speak to him about, he's been working on this for so long, and here I am giving a 1-minute spiel on it.
Now, Randy from Chelsea, thank you for your time. Like you mentioned, it's a 56-unit project. Obviously, much needed affordable housing in any part of our state. We were fortunate to be awarded 12 project-based vouchers from the Imperial Housing Authority. And within the last year, we were able to partner with the San Diego Regional Center. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so there'll be 12 units that'll be set aside for families that have either a member that's developmentally disabled or an individual that's developmentally disabled. So that makes this extra special for me, this project. Like she said, it's an infill lot, and we applied for home funds about a month ago, additional state funding as well that we're hoping to be successful. And with your assistance, it would be greatly appreciated.
The last project that I believe Chelsea worked on with us is off of 8th Street, is that correct? The extension of 8th Street
Off of
by
Bradshaw.
Lincoln? Okay. Well, one of the things that I remember at that point in time, John Edney was on the council, I believe it was John Edney, who calculated the construction cost per square foot for that complex, and it was astronomical, like over the moon. Do you remember that, Norma? I see you shaking your head. And how are we going to make sure that we're using this funding, getting the biggest bang for the buck, and we're not creating something that's just extravagantly priced?
I understand, especially as everyone's seeing the market conditions
Yeah.
on lumber, stucco alone.
Right.
Originally, the project was designed, it was 5 separate garden-style buildings. But with prevailing wage on this job and in combination with the increase, what we did is we went back and redesigned. It's not as pretty. We have 2 double corridor buildings, but we were able to pretty much cut down $1 million in the construction costs.
How many parking spaces are we requiring? I know that
Just here,
we have been asked to really go back and take a look at if we're
Says
having
114.
it's required 99, provided 114.
114 parking spaces for 56 units?
It's actually mostly all on grade. It's because we have the area on that lot. And that's actually our project right next to it. That's Countryside 1. We have one bedrooms and two bedrooms and three bedroom units, a lot of them being the three bedroom units for families. And that's certainly obviously something that can be taken a look at.
I think we need to relook at the parking a little bit and see if we can do something more with landscaping, especially in this climate. Landscaping is kind of a nice added thing to have, maybe.
Yes, no, I agree.
Looks like
Yep.
most of it's covered though, isn't it?
We also have shade
all of this
structures,
here.
is what something I noticed.
Oh, yes, we have a number of them.
So
for this
that's,
area.
many of our apartment units in the valley do not have shade structures, and that's something, an added amenity. And as it relates to parking, I would like to add that in the valley, housing units own way more cars than in most other areas. So even though it is slightly overparked, I can assure you all the parking spaces will be taken. So, and our ratio is it's pretty high. That is an accurate statement that other people have made. But in this area, people own multiple vehicles per housing unit.
And any ideas on analyzing cost efficiencies on the probability of using solar panels in some way and reduce the carbon footprint in some way?
Yes, we've looked at that. It's just the price of that alone, especially in this climate, rings it very, very, very high. We have a project in Brawley that we have a net zero system on, and hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to receive an allocation tomorrow from the tax credit committee. But again, the costs of that are
It's pretty high.
yeah.
What about charging stations? Do you ever include charging stations with their multifamily use?
We haven't seen that much of a demand for electric vehicle charging stations. We've done a couple of projects where we've had one or two, and they haven't been that utilized. But obviously, that's something else that we
So
could look at.
what's the lifespan on this building, though? I mean, on these apartments?
55 years is how.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, and Mr. Baza would know probably better than anybody. Mr. Baza? Mr. Baza? Did the governor just sign, or is getting ready to sign, we're gonna be doing away with gas in, so we're all gonna be transitioning to electric vehicles pretty soon?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
No, we are, right?
Well, there certainly are some requirements that are pending for buses that require
But I think that really where we're headed is electric vehicles.
Well,
So
it's
if
been on
this,
the news, his goals for the
right.
next 40 years.
So if this is a complex that's expected to stand for 55 years, if the next generation of technology is electric or hybrid vehicles, we need charging stations, I think.
Gotcha.
Or at
And what
least a plan for
Yes, and
charging
what we've done
stations.
on other projects too is we've had them acceptable and adaptable for that type of improvement.
Okay, just plan ahead. It would be great,
Yes.
I think.
Mayor, if I may point out too, that the commitment from the successor agency is contingent upon Chelsea being able to get 100%
Funding?
of the project funding.
Okay.
Obviously, if they're not able to obtain the full funding, then the commitment of the agency will basically,
Okay.
not be there for the
Okay.
project.
I wanted to say one thing. Sorry, Mayor. The community development director informed me that, we would still have to do the site plan and all of
All
these
the
other
other
things.
stuff.
Yeah, this
Okay,
is
good.
just the
So we're getting a
the
little ahead of
application.
ourselves?
Yeah, and
Okay.
also as it relates to the infrastructure for electric vehicles, the building code now requires you to be ready so that when you can easily install them.
I'm feeling
at
better
the time.
already.
Yeah, so I do want to assure you that we have not done the site plan review. This is just the application. the
Right,
grant
perfect.
application. So it's
Well,
still
see,
conceptual.
We're so excited that this project's gonna get funded, and we feel so good about it that we're already in the design phase. So, all right, so what's before us is the commitment for $500,000. What's the pleasure of the council on this?
Also move. Are we doing voice, or are we balloting?
No, I think we're ready to take action. We have a recommendation to pass, adopt resolution number SA 18-04. I have a motion by Jackson, second by Silva, and that item passes 5-0. All right, well, good luck. Go get that funding. Okay, very good. So we are done. If we want to do some very quick reports, we are going to go back into closed session very, very
forgot
quickly
about that.
at the end of this. Very quickly, very quickly. Mr. Cardenas?
In the spirit of getting our wonderful staff home, I have no
Yeah.
comment.
Okay.
Real briefly, attended the League of Cities this last week. Couple of key items I went to. I went to homeless, a class on homelessness and also on cannabis. I was disappointed with the cannabis seminar. It wasn't very informative. The homeless one was actually very informative on the added costs and liabilities that cities that are participating in homeless shelters are absorbing. So at a time better equipped, I'll share more of that with my colleagues. Tomorrow I leave for JPIA, representing the city. I think our city manager and human resource director is also going. And other than that, Kenzie was getting a little lonely, and so we decided to add to the family. So
Whoa, yay, congratulations.
so the next one is due April 10th or thereabouts, and so I'll be having a birthday
Wow.
baby.
Congratulations. Wow, that's cool, very cool. More competition for the recreation programs. Okay. Mr.
I
Garcia.
have no comments.
Mr. Silva.
Just real fast, you know, when the weather begins to get nice, so then we get a lot of events being scheduled.
Oh, good
So,
grief, yes.
So Thursday, I'll be attending an event hosted by the Mexican Consulate, and that's the award of the Oatley
Yes.
recognition to Lupe Quintero. I think many of us know her. I'm very excited for her and proud of her for receiving that award. Friday, I'll be in Mexicali at the Economic Conference, and I'll be one of the speakers, a very short time frame that we have, and thank you for staff for providing me some talking points for that. And then Saturday, I want to see you right down the street from my house.
Are you inviting us over for
Breakfast
coffee
we can
after?
have
Breakfast
some
at your
coffee or
house before
something.
the-
We'll just do a Friday, Saturday thing.
I know.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. So, yes, I also had the opportunity to participate in the League of California Cities Annual Conference and appreciated being joined there. I was sworn in as a member of the Board of Directors for League of California Cities, and also I'm now the Vice President of the Women's Caucus for the state of California. So I'm very proud to represent El Centro in those capacities. So with that, we are adjourned, and we will have a quick phone call in closed session and be done.